Coming up, she creates custom meditations for strong, heart-centered women so they can reclaim their authentic, vibrant selves. But first, welcome to Imagine Peace, the podcast that invites you on a transformative journey toward a world filled with harmony and understanding. Together, let's ignite the flame of peace within ourselves and radiate it outward so we can have a future where unity prevails. This is Imagine Peace, where dreams become reality. Join us as we explore the power of compassion, the beauty of diversity, and the potential for positive change. Hi, I'm Marbeth Dunn with 10 Million for World Peace. And I am a founder and director of 10 Million for World Peace. And this is our podcast, Imagine Peace. And we are so happy that you are here to join us today with our amazing guest. It's Kim Oneill. She provides authentic confidence coaching and custom meditations for strong, heart-centered women who feel like they've lost themselves and would love to reclaim their authentic, vibrant self, feel empowered again, and learn how to self-lovingly move forward. Kim also hosts the Every Day is a New Day show. It's an award-winning, 3 times Amazon best-selling author. She is a twice certified coach, also specializing in the law of attraction and interview skills. She's a Reiki master, a former crime analyst, and the creator of Let Your Light Shine movement. Kim believes that when you shine, our world shines. Let your light shine. And for more info, it's KimOneillCoaching.com. So Kim, I am just so excited to have you here today. I just always love your energy.
Oh, Marbeth, I always love your energy. It's great to be with you and have another deeply meaningful conversation to support your audience. I'm grateful.
So one of the things that I know that you're interested in is mindfulness and thoughts. Can you talk to us a little bit about that? What does that mean?
Yeah, it's so important to be aware of what we're thinking because our thoughts are also energy. And so if we're thinking thoughts that aren't in support of who we are, of what we're doing in the world, of the relationships we have, things like that, that energy is going to be transferred into all of those things. And ultimately, we don't want that, right? We want to be able to be aligned, to be feeling good, to be manifesting our dreams and creating the life that we want to live. And so it really makes a difference when we're aware of the thoughts that we're thinking about any subject whatsoever. And I like to make sure that people don't shame yourself, don't get down on yourself if you notice, oh my goodness, I've had this repetitive pattern of thinking negative thoughts about whatever it might be. That's simply your opportunity to say, okay, but I'm grateful now to be aware of what I've been thinking. And now I can make the shift and course correct. So yeah, that's in a nutshell. And that's what I would say. It's very important to be aware of what we're thinking because it makes a difference in impacting our life.
Of course. Do you want to talk a little bit about mindfulness and why it's so important?
Yeah. So just like I was saying, the mindfulness, you know, if we're just continually going through our day and not being aware of what we're thinking, it contributes to how we're not aware of all the other things that we're creating in our life. And it's to me, another word for mindfulness is awareness. So being aware of what you're thinking. And I think the best way to start to do that is to take time, go within, journal, start to get your thoughts outside of you. That's one way to start to become more aware of what have I been thinking, and then reflect on that. You just sit there and free write, journal your thoughts. And then when you're done, when it feels complete, go back and look at what you wrote and start to tune into, oh my gosh, does this feel good? Does it not feel good? Is that something I would say to someone I care about? and start to connect the dots between what's showing up in your world and how it's connecting to the thoughts you've been thinking, the inner self-talk, all of that stuff. So that's my expanded explanation of mindfulness and how it impacts our life.
Well, I think it's so important because mindfulness brings us into the present moment, and that really is our pivotal point of power. We're not stuck in the past because so many of those thoughts can be coming from our past, and we're just dragging them along into our present and thus into the future. So, yeah, and what do you do when you find yourself really having this repetitive issue that you are having trouble releasing?
Yeah, and Marbeth, thank you for mentioning the whole present thing, because absolutely, that's like that's the foundation of it. It's bringing us into the present moment and having that awareness of what we're thinking. When I find that something is looping or repeating in my life, I have to, like I was talking about going within, take a look at what's contributing to that. What are all the things that I'm giving my energy to that don't feel good? And I start to like go backwards, right? If something's showing up in my life that I don't like, what is the feeling I have about that? What are other thoughts that I have about that? How are these things helping me? I just kind of go back through all of it till I get to the root of it. And this is helpful for me. It's not about looking at the past, but sometimes it can be this long trail of not understanding what's happening in our lives and why it's happening. And it helps me to uncover the root of it and go, oh, that's where the pattern is emanating from. So I might be having different situations, different people, but it's like a similar vibe, a
Right.
similar outcome, right? And so having that awareness by just starting to circle things back, and because everything is connected, even when we think it's not. So just starting to ask myself those questions. Again, the journaling. When things are really hard and I don't even have the energy to do that, then the very even more simplified answer is meditate. Just simply start to calm the energy down, go within and ask for help, ask for guidance, ask for the insights. When I have more energy and am I able to kind of just find the connecting dots, then I'll do the other exercise I just talked about. But I would say that any challenge that someone finds themselves in, that is a repeating pattern, that is keeping them stuck in the past, everything is figure outable. Everything is resolvable. Everything is healable. And so, anybody thinking that their situation is not reversible, is not is not resolvable. I challenge that because it is, and there's always a light at the end of the tunnel, always, always. And anyway, I'm kind of getting off track, but I want to make sure anybody, yeah, okay.
No, I think that's great. So how would you tie this in with being more peaceful? We're all about world peace, we're imagined peace. How would you tie this in with being more peaceful and creating more peace on our planet?
Yes, great question. So how I tie it in is that when you're taking that time to be more mindful, when you're going within, calming your mind through meditation or any other exercise that helps you feel serene and peaceful, as you're doing those things that support you in feeling better, feeling more open, feeling free from the past, calmer, you bring in that more mindful awareness. And then when you move throughout your day, you move into new situations, new connections with other people. And as things start to show up, that could be, create some tension, create something that might feel unsettling or not good. I'll just, simplify the terms there. You now are more aware and can make new choices. You can decide to respond differently, decide to say something differently, or maybe simply decide, I don't need to use words at all in this moment. I now know, what the higher truth is for me. You now can see things from a bigger perspective, understand how things might be playing out for you and another person, whatever it might be. And you can start to respond from a different space. So I hope that answers your question. Is that how the mindfulness connects to the peace, because we now can make new choices?
Of course. So how does that open us up to I guess world peace?
It starts with one. It always starts with one. And it's so important to recognize that. And I'm speaking to whoever's with us today, because I know you know this, Marbeth, but it's so important for you to recognize you are that one. You are that one. You are valuable. Your life, your presence, your existence, your thoughts, your energy, your emotions are so important and have a ripple effect in your world. And as you connect with other people, that ripples out into other people too. We all do this and are in flow with each other. So when one person simply takes that time to go within and clear out what's going on within them, it's going to have a ripple effect in everyone else they connect with. So it's, world peace starts with one and then emanates out from there. And that's why what I love what you guys are doing, just staying so focused on and committed to, reminding people about world peace and taking the time to go within, because that's where it starts for all of us. I just want to add also, I think that, anybody who might be new to the journey of really recognizing the value in their own thoughts and emotions and all of that, and their own power, may be inclined to initially overthink a lot of this and think that, oh no, it must be harder than me just going within. It must be more complicated than, me and my own thoughts, right? There's a huge, I was going to use the word trend. It's not trend. It's very common for us to initially continually look outside of ourselves and think that it's something much bigger. It's other people, it's other situations. And we're not taking away the effects of that. But if we're wanting to get to the root of change, it's always going to start from within and then emanate outward. So it is that simple. That is actually one of the common phrases that tends to come up with some of my coaching clients is, wow, I can't believe it's that simple. And so and then that's the beauty of when we start to look at, okay, fine, let's start where we are. And we reverse, we go backwards and look at things and we get to the root and we're like, oh, it's that simple. It started there. I had no idea everything was coming out of that. So it is that simple, and you are that valuable, and you being you and doing your own work makes a huge difference for all of us. So thank you for all those who are doing that.
Absolutely, because when we're holding on to old patterns, something may be triggering us in the present, but it could be going back to, oh, this reminds me, this feeling is when my teacher embarrassed me when I was 7 years old. And then that could also go back a little bit further when one of your siblings did something that affected you. So you don't even know, I know A Course in Miracles always tells us that we're never upset for the reason we think, but when you follow that trail back, you recognize the feeling, you can find all these other areas where it might have started. So I wanted to ask you, I know this is a little bit off the beaten track, but I know that you have a history. You were in law enforcement before you became a coach. So how did this mindfulness and awareness play into that period of your life?
Yeah, that's a great question, Marbeth. Thank you. And I will just say, for anybody who's wondering, I was not a police officer. I was a civilian working within public safety. Both police and fire had different positions. And yes, before I decided to take the leap into more coaching and all the energy healing work, all that kind of stuff I do today, I was a crime analyst at a police department. And so it was very interesting because when I initially took that job, I was already in I think 2 coaching certifications at the time. And then shortly after I started, I decided to get certified for Reiki. And so as I'm in this space of continuing to go deeper within myself and learning more about me and how I can assist others, and then also understanding more about my own energy, which has been a continuous journey. It didn't just end with one certification. I was becoming super aware of how I was feeling and all the energies around me. So here I am, this person who's supposed to be reading, hundreds of crime reports every day. and having to learn how to, again, be aware of my energy and energies that are influencing me. It was like, oh my goodness, I'm becoming so much more aware of where my energy is split, and how, this job, it serves a purpose, and I'm not knocking anybody who's in that job or in that field, but it was contradictory to me and where I was headed, and what I felt I was called to do in a new way at that time. And so it became very challenging, and it was hard. And fortunately, I did have, I was able to work a 4-day work, like, what's the phrase? I've been out of it for so long, a 4-day week schedule, whatever. And then had 3 days off, and that was always really nice. But the challenge was I always felt like I needed all of those 3 days to realign my energy and get back to a space of feeling good and open. And then, wouldn't you know it, I had to go back to the job and take it all on again. And so it was constantly, this challenge for me of how do I cushion myself? I now try to not use the word protect, because I choose to believe we are safe. But how do I cushion myself? How do I stay balanced and aligned while I've got all this other stuff in my world? And that was a challenge for me. So eventually I had to make a new decision, and may not be the right decision for everybody, but I do think it is something worth sharing. And I appreciate you asking, because I think many people are finding themselves in positions right now where they're being challenged to make new decisions for where their life is headed. And some of those can be really scary, may ask you to rely on your faith, and whatever that means for you. It's not, to me, it's not a religious term. And just know that you are being guided in a direction that is absolutely going to serve and support you on whatever bigger scale you are feeling, called to move in. So.
Sure, it must have, really been very challenging in terms of your alignment as you were becoming more sensitive and
Yes.
more aware and into a more loving, non-judgmental place, to be working in a scenario of crime, of looking for who's at fault here. And there's a terms of a judgment, because you have to make a judgment of who is at fault, right?
Yeah, it's, yeah, it wasn't pleasant to be continually reading about all these unpleasant things people are doing to other people in the world. That was distressing, and not, yeah, it just got to a point where it's like, I can't keep doing this to myself. So yeah, it was hard.
Okay, I kind of wondered about that, because I've known you for years, and I knew that you had that background, but I didn't know exactly what you did. So thank you for sharing about that. So I wanted to also ask you, what are some of the tools that you use to create greater peace in yourself?
Well, meditation is definitely one of them. And that has also been a journey for me. So if I'm speaking to any newbies out there who are just delving into meditation, I want to say, let yourself flow with it and evolve with it. So for instance, when I first started, I only felt like I could fully get into a meditative state when I did guided meditations. That really helped me. Having people guide me through some sort of visualization or process, that was really helpful. Then eventually it was like, okay, no, I don't need the guided portion. Now I just like doing it with some music. That feels really good. And then I eventually got to the space where I'm like, heck, I don't even need the music. I just silence, just sit there and breathe. And that did the trick, and then it's even switched up over time, where now I sometimes toggle between all of them. So let yourself evolve and flow with it. It's about you doing what supports you and getting into that space, that calm, centered space. Another thing that I think is really good is clearing your energy. And this is something that I've known about for years, and did in various ways. And when we do something like meditation, that's helping us clear our energy in some form. But I now do an even more deliberate practice, and it's very simple, but at the end of the day, taking time I visualize my energy being cleansed, I call back my energy, I release what's not mine, and I just take a few moments to really feel back into what feels aligned, right, and whole for me in that moment. And as I say that, I believe we are always all whole, but we can have the experience or feeling of not feeling whole. So it's a fantastic exercise to get myself back into that feeling space. But I absolutely believe it makes a huge difference, because we may not always know what other energies we've kind of taken on throughout the day. And so it continues to surprise me that when I just take a few moments to deliberately clear my energy, the subtle shift that I feel, and I feel that, the next day and the next day, when I continue to do this, things manifest differently. In I'm noticing shifts as I've been doing that more deliberately. So that's something I definitely want to recommend for people. And there's all different types of ways to do that. But yeah, so clearing your energy and meditating are two my tips there.
Very beautiful. And I want to talk with you a little bit about taking on other people's energy, because I know some of our viewers may be wondering, what does that mean? How am how am I taking on other people's energy? Is this safe? And how can I know? And what can I do about it?
Yeah, I love that you brought this up, Marvet. Yeah. So this is something that when I first started hearing about taking on other people's energy, it was something that I was repeatedly hearing about, but I didn't really, just like you said, I didn't really know, how does this apply to me? What does this really mean? And so one of my very first experiences, I'll share, is I thought, well, let me play with this. And there was a moment where I think it was the feeling of guilt. And I just out of the blue was feeling like this guilty feeling. And I'm like, what is this? And I really, in that particular moment, I was able to go, okay, this doesn't really make sense. Where did this come from? How is this showing up? And so I was like, okay, let me do that thing I heard to do. And so I just took a moment and I said, who does this belong to? And I instantly got an answer. And as I got that answer, the feeling shifted and left, and I felt free. And I was like, oh, wow. So
Oh, yeah.
this is why clearing energy is so powerful, because we may not always know why we're feeling something, where it's coming from. And I will also say, even when you ask, you may not always get a clear answer, but asking or simply just taking time to say, okay, I'm going to clear my energy. It doesn't matter whose it is or where it came from. You can still clear yourself from it. And as I say all of that, I'll just simply add, yeah, sometimes stuff is ours. So this isn't about saying, okay, everything I feel is someone else's. Not necessarily. And sometimes it's going to be a combination of the two of you. Bottom line, you serve yourself and the world. Again, coming back to that peace aspect and how we're all connected, when you take time to clear and realign your energy, regardless of what you've picked up from someone else through a conversation, through, working together, family, friends, whatever it might be. We're all going through our own life experience, and things show up. And when we interact with other people, we have the capacity to unknowingly take on, maybe, absorb some of their energy. And it happens. And so you know what to do about it now, is to clear it for yourself and for those you come into contact with next too.
Absolutely. I was just talking with someone about the first time that I experienced that situation. And, I woke up with a headache. It's like, that doesn't feel like me. So I
Yeah.
was able to just go back through my day the day before. And when I found the person, I was just like, oh, that just clicked. So yeah, I just very gently just pushed it out, sent
Yeah.
the love and peace, and felt much better. So yeah, it's important.
Oh, Marbeth, and thank you for sharing that. I want to also just add, for anybody who's navigating a situation right now, honor your feelings, what your body is communicating to you. I know you're big on this too. And that's right. Yeah. So yeah, that's just coming up right now. If anybody's going, gosh, I'm maybe physically just not feeling myself, or something's off, honor that. Cause yeah, I've certainly had some moments in the past where I didn't. And I was like, oh, I should have listened way sooner, trusted what my body was communicating. So
Oh yeah.
yeah, just want to put that
Body
out there.
loves you and will always let you know if
Yeah.
something isn't right. Trust it. Don't
Hmm.
don't just second guess it. Yeah, trust it. So how can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, well, they can go to KimOneillCoaching.com, and O'Neill is Oneill. So KimOneillCoaching.com, and links to everything, my coaching, the meditation sessions, my podcast, the movement, and even my YouTube, where I've been doing some new Message of Hope Oracle and Tarot readings over there, which is fun
Oh,
lately.
cool.
Yeah, so that's where they can access everything from the website.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us today on our Imagine Peace podcast that is sponsored by 10 Million for World Peace. It is always wonderful to be with you, Kim.
Thank you, Marbeth. I appreciate it.
Imagine Peace is brought to you by 10 Million for World Peace. Join our daily 7-minute guided meditations for world peace and monthly healing circles at 10millionforworldpeace.org. Together we can create a peaceful, happy planet.